Good day. Today's December 1st, 2019. This is the second time I just did a 20-minute video and it just disappeared. So I'm going to have to redo this one. Hopefully it'll be better. As I was saying, I felt it compelled to make another video. I was going to first do it on DNA, bloodlines, and then I thought I'll do it on health, and so many of the people in the vaccine movement have been, anti-vaccine movement, have been silenced or even assassinated more recently. It's almost like people are not ready for new ways to approach health, and so we have to finish up some other work in other departments first. What direction? Yeah, that's what I want to talk about today. And this all goes back as far back to the Garden of Eden. Some of the history gives a little bit better clarification of it, going back to Rome, how we are an extension of the Roman Empire in many ways. But back in the Garden of Eden, we were given a choice between the established laws, 10 Commandments, and we were given the choice of going that way or going with the serpent, Lucifer. And by going through all the rigmarole of learning, if we remember our past lives or even our present life, we might learn how better to discern which direction to go. So, as I read off from my other failed video, I'm going to read again from one of the favorite of the system today, Sigmund Freud. And it's very important what he wrote in one of his books. The masses are lazy and unintelligent. They have no love for instinctual reunification. It is only through the influence of individuals who can set an example and whom masses recognize as their leaders that they can be induced to perform the work and undergo the reunification on which the existence of civilization depends. That is really a lot. And some of you may disagree with that, but if you really think about it, he's making a point there. And psychology and psychiatry, which is kind of based on that today, takes forward. And the bankers, being the best scam artists, the central bankers, they've gotten the power and are basically showing the masses the direction to go. And of course that is to keep the banksters in power. And this was proven by the passage of the Federal Reserve Act in 1913, and mere 20 years later, this nation was bankrupt. Great Depression, which was brought on by the banksters, and then the gold that was taken from the people, from the masses, by Franklin Roosevelt, 1933 or 34, somewhere around there. So basically it was 20 years, and then every 20 years since then, they've been basically rolling over the debt until today, where there's from 21 trillion to 40 trillion and above missing money that's unaccountable, and Catherine Austin Fitts goes into this. I'm going to leave a link to this if you want to get into it further. But yeah, the CIA and their different arms have been more or less programming you all in the direction to keep them in power. There's also a quote. I want to give you some Babylonian mythology or Babylonian history, because it's a little bit more clear in some senses than what we have from the Christian Garden of Eden, because so much of that has been compromised. So again, I'm going to read. The myth of Marduk begins with Anu. Now, Anu is the head deity of the Babylonian mythology. They look down upon the earth in dismay. The land is in chaos, overrun by flooded waters and monstrous serpents. And today the monstrous serpents are the great corporations that are all incorporated under the City of London and given power by the Vatican. So Anu senses that bringing order to such chaos is a job for Marduk, the firstborn son of the moon goddess Ura. So Anu summons Marduk and asks him to organize the earth. Marduk agrees to the task, but only on condition that he be made first among the gods, and that his word shall have the force of the decree of Anu. So Anu accepts Marduk's terms and invests him with the powers of insignia of kingship, and Marduk's word was declared to have the authority of Anu. Armed with this divine power, Marduk goes to the earth and separates dry land from sea. Now, the dry land is the common law, the law of the land. And the sea power is the admiralty rule, that's maritime rules. It's this law of commerce put upon us from the City of London. So he polices the monsters, and any evildoer foolish enough to oppose him receives the wrath of God. So, what Marduk does after he initiates this is he appoints kings throughout the lands. And these kings were supposed to rule by example, not by force, by example. But over the years, the bloodlines became compromised. They got mixed with other DNA. And today you have so many poisons in our foods that the DNA is being attacked even more so. And of course we're taught by Hollywood and the advertising to mix bloods even further. It's hard to turn on a commercial or turn on TV without a commercial of mixed marriages. And this is the goal of the powers that be, because remember, they keep their bloodlines pure to a certain extent. But the one thing that's not told and what's not realized by a lot of them is that over the decades and decades and centuries of blood mixing, you have two new choices each time two people come together and produce an offspring. And so all these multiple mixing, you eventually come up with some mixes that basically derive the same results as a purer person. And today, as I've said in my other videos, we're all so mixed that it's just degrees. But you think about that. Are you being directed by commercials in Hollywood and medias that are controlled by a few enlarged families? Are you? Think about that. So, I wanted to also give you a little bit on science. I'm going to give some examples, some links. I want to point out that, as I said in past video, that the doorway that opens up a new science, and that it will truly open up what Trump's talking about, a new America, rebuilding America, is if we work on that fourth phase of water. Because the secret societies have been just telling you about the three, the liquid, solid, and air, gas. But there's a fourth phase, and that is structured water, sometimes referred to as easy water. Structured water is basically the electrons going to one side and the positive going to the other side whenever there's a division into another media. Now, some of the work that's being done is about liquids, but you have to understand, this is important what I'm saying, this is true of all medias. You have a dielectric effect. Now, Ken Wheeler, I'm going to link a video to his. He's telling you in this video all sorts of truths and pointing out a number of the many big fallacies of what science is based on today, and one of them is the speed of light. He says there's no such thing as a speed of light, and he's true, and that's true. So think of all the speed of light and Einstein's theory of relativity and all that brings in speed of light when there's no such thing. You know, it's now Ken Wheeler is difficult to understand, and it takes me, when he says something in 30 seconds, it takes me 30 minutes of going back and thinking about it to understand what he's just said. But the important thing in this video is that he's pointing out the major fallacies and pointing you in the direction of a more simplest understanding of the universe. And one of the things he talks about is the toroid, the donut. And here, what do we have? What I covered in my last video, or one of the last ones. You have a toroid. This is a toroid, a donut. Not only within it, but it's the outside, the dimensions and what's going on the outside is part of that. And that's basically what the Earth is. So you have this toroid working in conjunction with the Earth. And so it's functioning gravity. It's functional within gravity. It's not opposing it. It's not anti-gravity. It's not a force or an explosion. It's the subtleties there that it would take 4 years of college to really explain that fourth phase of water. And again, you have plasma, another fourth that I talked about, that really gets into the energy. And if you understand plasma, you'll understand the doorway to free energy Of course, you get that with the structured water too, because and then this ties in the health of the body, because we're made up of so much water. The liquids are water based, and so you have that structuring. That look up the word dielectric, and you understand that this is ongoing in everything. So when you understand the structured blood, you understand you've got the ground base of what health is built on and what's really going on in the body, not all this other stuff. And then when you insert poisons through vaccines and through poisons in the food and through the 4GO and the future 5GO, you're polluting the environment, so you're not getting, you're disrupting the structure. That's as easy as I can explain it. Let's see, that's 16 minutes. I wanted to also include, since we just passed Thanksgiving, and I'm going to link a video to this. Basically, it's what we're taught in school and by the media is that the Pilgrims came to America and they didn't do well the first year, and then the Indians taught them how to grow corn, and everybody lived happily ever after. But this video goes into what many of the first colonies were, settlements were based on communism. And the most healthy people were supposed to grow the food and do all the work for the rest of the community. And of course, they eventually gave up. What's the point of doing all this work for these other people? I'm just a slave. So the whole colony was restructured under capitalism, and everybody had freedom to grow what they could and keep it and profit from that. Thus, true capitalism. And within a couple years, there was enough abundance that the people were trading outside the community, because everybody in the community was doing their fair share and helping towards the community. And this is where the abundance of trade comes from, by being able to keep the profits of what you build. And today we have basically, like the first year of the colony, we have a communist system going on where the government takes almost over more than enough from the producers and says we need to distribute it among the poor and take our share so we can keep this up. And anyway, there's more mouths to feed than what the producers can produce, and the producers give up, because they're slaves to the people that are not producing. And I've lived with people who are on welfare, and I've tried to get them off, but they say, what's the point? And I try to get them to cut back on what they have, But they're getting this stuff free, so they have no concept, and they actually literally refuse to cut back. And they say, come up with all these excuses. We're too busy to do this. We're too busy to do that, or they've got it in their mind that everybody else owes them. Such is the school system of today. And all the Democrats that are running for president, they're all teaching, oh, this is going to be wonderful. Socialism, it's like this all comes from whatever, and all we have to do is pluck it. It's like robbing the hive too much honey. The bees starve. And that's what's happening to the fewer and fewer and fewer producers. That's 20 minutes. I've probably left out some of the stuff that I was planning to say. Read all the comments and what I've written below, and there's more than enough to study and go deeper into those things on what direction you need to think about. I think I didn't stick in the part on Gordon Kahl, who back in the early 90s was assassinated by the powers that be because he was teaching the different counties in the Dakotas a way out of the mess through going through. Now each county, or most of the states, are divided up into, the counties are divided up into townships, and he said by getting together in one township, and you could claim of this part of the township without actually having to be physically there, but you'd set up a government based on the Constitution and the common law of the land, where almost all counties now are the county of like the state of. These are all corporations based under rulership from the City of London. So once this township was running under the Constitution and common law, the rest of the county would realize how much better and profitable that was. And so they would come over, and eventually the county would be back established on the laws of the land, which are based on the Ten Commandments. But he was assassinated because the powers that be don't want anybody listening, directed, just pointed in another direction other than they. They want the power over you. Good day, and think about that. And in the weeks that follow, I don't know how much longer some of the YouTube and some of these programs are going to be on, so I hope you get the gist of what I'm saying and what so many of the other true patriots are out there saying. Look at these links. Thank you. Goodbye.